Hello, Flosstubers. It's Danielle coming at ya. It's looking down at my calendar. It is June 20th already. Wow. I just thought I would do a little check-in just to see how everyone's doing. Thank you for all the subscribers from my last video. That was really cool. Let's see. I guess I can just dive right in. I thought today I would do the Know Your Needleworker questions because it seems to be a fun thing to do. So let's just do that. 1. Where do you live? I live in a small city called Vernon in British Columbia in Canada. We live in the Okanagan, it's the Okanagan Valley, and I think I mentioned that in the last video, that if you know the show Bud Empire that's on the History Channel, that's that city that they're in is Kelowna, and that's about 45 minutes away from here. So I live, you know, kind of in the slightly north of where I used to live. But anyway, what do I do for a living? Number 2. I actually haven't worked in about a decade. It's a long and complicated story that I won't really go into, but that's sort of the reason why I started needleworking, is because I just needed some structure and stability in life. So my husband is a lawyer. He's a family lawyer. So if you lived here or around these parts and needed a divorce or something, he would be the guy to see. If you're fighting over custody for your children, he would be the guy to see. So yeah, there's that. Your 3 favorite hobbies that are not cross-stitch. Well, I would say, let's see. Well, I started quilting, I guess about 10 years ago, right around the time that I was pregnant with my kid, my daughter. So I wanted to make a baby quilt, so I went to a quilting fabric shop and I bought a it's not really a book, it's actually a really cool collection of baby quilt patterns. Really fun. And I made a couple of quilts out of that collection. And they're still kicking around even now. So I've made many quilts since then, some for other people, but mostly they stay here because anybody who quilts will understand this. They are expensive to make and they take forever. Well, okay, some more than others, but you know what I mean. And so when you're done and you've finally finished the binding and everything and it's completely ready to be washed for the first time as a quilt, it's kind of like, I don't want to give this away. People who get quilts often don't appreciate how much work went into them. Well, that's not true. I guess they do appreciate it, but not to the extent that I do. So they mostly just stay here. Another one, let's see. Well, I like other kinds of embroideries. I first started with like free embroidery, so kind of all the specialty non-counted stuff, like, let's see, stump work, crewel. I've learned some gold work, although I haven't made anything with the golden threads. I I do know how to do it. I've done a whole lot of couching, and that's a big part of gold work. So I've taken like every craftsy class probably about embroidery. So that's sort of where I got started. So I don't know if that technically counts as another hobby, but to me it does, because it's an entirely different skill set, in my view, my feelings. And let's see, a third favorite hobby. Well, I don't really have anything that I more avidly do than that. I used to take drumming lessons, and I can play the drums, but I haven't had a drum kit in a few years. We were moving, and I had to sell it because we just weren't going to have the room for it, because anybody who plays any kind of an instrument knows they take up space, and they're noisy sometimes. I mean, I never played digital drums. I only play acoustical drums. So they're big and they're loud. And if you live in a townhouse like I do now, or an apartment like I was, it doesn't go over too well, unless you play the drums in the afternoon time. When you're sure that your neighbors aren't home, then it's not so bad and you can get some practicing in. But yeah, I do miss doing that a lot. I really do. I also used to sing and drum at the same time, and that was also fun. Lots of fun. Let's see. Question 4. Do you have kids? Yes. My husband and I have one. We have a daughter, and she is 9 years old. And, yeah, I had to have a hysterectomy because I had some cancer starting to develop. So I can't have any more children, but that's okay. We didn't really want any more children anyway. It's enough to support the one, and I don't know. For us, one is just right. So 5 pets. Yes, we have a menagerie, sort of. First and foremost, we have 3 cats. They are a litter of cats that we adopted. Well, the story goes, let's see, in 2004, I got a cat from the SPCA where my husband and I were living in Victoria in British Columbia. And we had him. His name was Major, and he was black. He was all black. He was beautiful. He was really beautiful. The shelter named him Major, and that was so cool because my husband was still in the military back then. So, and he was a sergeant. So it was awesome because I was like, well, cats always outrank the people. So it's pretty awesome that this kitty was here waiting for us to adopt him. And we had Major for 11 years until he developed some pretty aggressive cancer, unfortunately, in his throat, and it was closing his throat off, and it was really, really awful. So we had to put him down. And wow, anybody out there who's had to do that for their pet knows. Like, my husband and I are not criers, neither one of us, but when we had to do that, we were there for like half an hour afterwards in the room with him. The vet and her assistant were so kind. They let us have all the time that we needed. We cried like babies. We were just like beside ourselves. It was terrible. It was so terrible. The pain was awful. And after we left, we went and we sat in the car with our empty cat carrier and we just sat there. Like, we didn't start the engine or anything. We just sat there, and just didn't move, because we were just so distraught. We were so hurt, and we were nervous to go back home where our neighbor who lived in the basement was watching our daughter for us and stuff, because we didn't want her to come with us. We thought that would be too distressing, even though obviously it doesn't hurt them. It was still painful for us anyway. I hope it was nice and easy for him, but it was pretty brutal for us. Anyway, after Major died, we were sad. I remember my husband didn't really want to have any more cats, because the experience was intense. And Major had been a stray cat, so he was a challenging cat, shall we say. But it was rewarding to have him and to give him a good life. Anyway, where we were living at the time was in Surrey, in British Columbia, so in like the lower mainland, Vancouverish area. And there's a real cat problem there. It's kind of the part of the city where we were living, because it's a big city. It was a poorer part of the city. So a lot of people were struggling, including us, struggling to get by. And by virtue of that, they couldn't afford to fix their cats. They weren't spaying or neutering regularly. So there were a lot of unwanted cats in the neighborhood. And our neighbor who lived downstairs had a female. Her name was Delia. She's a really, really, really cute girl. But she was not spayed. So we shared the house. She lived in the basement. We lived on the top floor. We shared the house, I guess, for about 2 years before we got to move up here, because my husband got a way better job. Anyway, over that 2-year period, Delia had about 3 litters of cats, probably more, probably 4. So after Major died, Delia had a litter of kittens, and Delia's litters were always 3. She always had 3 kittens, never more and never less. It was really interesting, and I got to meet all of her little babies as they were being born. It was so cute. And then when Major was gone, the house was so empty feeling, like so empty. So I remember she asked me, why don't you come downstairs and hang out with the kitties and stuff, because she knew how upset we were. And I said, okay. So I went down there and I met the new baby kitties, and I was like, oh my god, I just want to take them home with me upstairs. They're so sweet and so wonderful. And I haven't had a kitten in many years, because we adopted Major and he was already an adult. So he had all kinds of issues because he'd been living in the street for so long. And I thought, oh, how great it would be to have brand new kittens, and that way they could just learn to live with us and not be as high maintenance as an adult cat that already has their own behaviors that you can't change no matter what you try. So I brought my husband down there and I was like, come on, come and see the babies. And he was like, I was like, there's a tabby, because he really loves tabby cats. He's got a real soft spot. And I said, they have cute little tails. Their little tails are like cute little stubbies. They're so cute. My husband loves things with tails. I don't know why. He loves those kind of critters. So he came down and he was like, they were kind of nice. And they were in a cardboard box. It was like the quintessential cuteness, right? So, anyway, we ended up, he's like, well, which one should we get? And I was like, we need to get at least 2. And really, we should have them all. So that they don't have to be separated from each other. Because they're a litter. So that's what we ended up doing. There are 2 girls and 1 boy. The boy is Henry, and he's a cow cat. So he's kind of black with the white splorches and stuff on him. Like he's got the white nose and muzzle, and a bit of white on his chest, and you know what I mean, cow cat. And Sophia is the tuxedo cat. She's mostly black, so she's got the little kind of white collar, and she's got the sweetest little white toes that are like, the tips of her toes are white, and they're so cute. And the tabby girl, she's the most different looking and the most different in personality too. She's Victoria, is her name, and yeah, she's a gray tabby, and she's really sweet. They're all really sweet. Victoria is the small one. She's really, really little. She's probably 3 pounds, 4 pounds at the most. The other 2 are a lot more stout, but they're our babies, and we love them so much. That was a long story about cats. Holy cow. Sorry about that. We love our cats. And they're 3 years old now, so yeah, we've had them for a while. And let's see, we have lots of fish. We've always had fish. We have a whole bunch of guppies. So, and those are fun because they're live-bearing fish, so when they reproduce, they have their babies, and the babies are out there swimming around. It's really fun. Our daughter loves other critters too. She really likes snails. She's got a thing for snails. Most recently, she's had snails from outside. One was named, she names them too. She named one of them Gwen, and the other one was named Leland. I don't know where she picked the names from. Our cats' names are from royalty. We picked all royal names. So, yeah, that's that for animals. Holy. Okay. Number 6. Favorite movie. Let's see. I have a couple. Let's see. The first one, I really enjoy, the movie. It's old now. Well, old-ish now. It's from around 2000 or so. Maybe 2002. Certainly early 2000s. And it's called Ghost World. Thora Birch is in it, and Scarlett Johansson before she was really, really famous. And that's a really cool book. Oh, and Steve Buscemi's in it. Bob Balaban is in it. Who else? Those are the main people in it, and they're all famous. Lots of fun. It's about a record collecting guy, Steve Buscemi, this painful nerd guy who collects records, and Thora Birch's character kind of becomes a record collector sort of because of him, and befriends him, even though he's way older than her. The reason I was turned on to this movie in the first place was because a person I was working with at that time, when it was new, said, "You're a record collector?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been collecting for years. Why?" And she said, "Well, do you have, like, any friends that are way older than you?" And I was like, "Yep." And she said, "Then you'll love watching Ghost World." And it's true. The story between Thora Birch's character and Steve Buscemi's character is totally like a relationship that I had with an older man when I was record collecting. So if ever you're interested in a movie sort of about me, in a way, you should watch that one. Another movie that's from the later 90s is Girl Interrupted, and that had Winona Ryder, Angelina Jolie, before Angelina was Angelina, and let's see, who else? Oh, there's another person. Oh, Brittany Murphy. Brittany Murphy was in that movie as well. Whoopi Goldberg. Who else? I can't think of anybody else well known off the top of my head. But anyway, it's all about borderline personality disorder. And back in the 1960s, when Winona Ryder's character developed the disorder and ends up in McLean, the famed McLean Hospital in Massachusetts. I'm not sure if it's in Boston, but I know it's in Massachusetts somewhere. It's a famous psychiatric hospital back in the early 50s. Sylvia Plath was hospitalized there. James Taylor was hospitalized there. So it's had a number of famed people there. Anyway, I have borderline personality disorder, so I read the book, Girl Interrupted, and then the movie came out, and I watched the movie, and identified a lot with not just the borderline personality issues, but all the other stuff that you run into in that movie, like sociopathy, psychopathy, other things like that. So, there's that. Oh, and another one that is slightly more of a recent favorite is the oldest movie that of this list, and it's called... Sorry, a really loud truck just went by. It's called 10 Rillington Place. It was done in 1970, 71. I love true crime, and because again, I think it's the psychopathy, the social issues and things that are very, very intriguing. Anyway, for those who might not be familiar, the movie is quite quite accurate. It starred Sir Richard Attenborough before he was a Sir, and he plays the character John Christie and does a very good job. I mean, Richard Attenborough. I mean, come on. Of course it's going to be excellent, but they did an excellent job in kind of transforming his appearance to look like the real John Christie looked. Let's see, John Hurt plays the other sort of main character. He plays the character Timothy Evans, and it was just such a heart-rending performance. I can see why I believe he won a BAFTA or something. He won a prestigious award, I think, for that performance, which makes sense, because it was touching. I don't usually feel that kind of a connection with something that I'm seeing on screen, but you do when you see that movie. It's about the case of John Reginald Halliday Christie, and he lived with his wife in number 10, what would have been Rillington Place back in the 40s and into the early 50s. It's in London, in Notting Hill. I've never been there, but I would really love to go. It's got a different name now. The street has a different name that I can't think of, because of the notoriety of the address. Other people who live there were successful in petitioning for a renaming of the street, because it was just, what happened there was just so disturbing. And actually where number 10, the actual unit number 10 is, where it would have been, has actually been demolished, and If I can find a picture, I'll insert it. It's got, like, it's like I think the English call them terrace houses. They're like row houses or townhouses kind of a thing. And where number 10 was is just the building on one side stops and there's grass, and then another unit pops up and carries on. So it's like one section of the building has been like erased and a tree and some grass and stuff has been planted there because nobody would want to live there because of the heinous crimes that were committed. So I won't go into it further because I could talk forever about just that. Anyway, great movie. If you wanted to check out, the original 10 Rillington Place like that, then it's on Dailymotion if you're interested. Or you can get it through YouTube, but you'll have to pay for it. Anyway, let's move on. 7 TV shows. TV shows. Trying to think here. We tend to watch more reality stuff. Not always, but a lot of times. So Forged in Fire on the History Channel. That's a fun one. You get to learn about how to make swords and knives and stuff from blacksmiths. And let's see, there's stuff like Food Network Stars, fun. Bud Empire's fun. Let's see. My husband really likes Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm less interested in that one. It's okay, but it was funny for a few episodes, but I don't know. I'm just... It's the same kind of joke over and over and over, so I'm not really into it, but he really enjoys it at the end of the day, so, there are worse things. Let's see, on Netflix, I like, Orange is the New Black is pretty good. My favorite show of that genre, though, is Wentworth. It's from Australia. Based on an old series from the 80s called Prisoner. It's sort of based around that idea. So if you're interested in a more kind of gritty prison kind of show that isn't necessarily a reality show, check that one out. It's very good, very well done, and very much more gritty. Orange is the New Black is more comedic in nature. So, okay. Moving on. Music. Number 8. Favorite music. Let's see. That could be a whole big video in and of itself because I've been a collector of music forever. Although I haven't collected physical media in a while, just because of space limitations. But I still have pretty much all the records that I've always had. I have lots of CDs still, but I have a premium Spotify account, so I listen to that really more than anything. But I do still have a record player and everything too. I really like especially as a teenager, I love all of the British invasion music from the 60s, Beatles, Rolling Stones, the Hollies, Those are the three that I can think of off the top of my head. I grew up with parents that were growing up in the 70s, so I heard a lot of that growing up. So who did I hear a lot of? Supertramp, which is interesting because my sister is a musician. She's a pianist, vocalist, arranger, conductor. She does everything. And she actually, in her performances that she does with her band, they actually do a number of Supertramp songs. And I can't help but think that maybe that's my fault, because we listened to those records a lot when we were kids. Who else did I hear a lot of? Chicago. A lot of Chicago. My mom, I think they're still my mom's favorite band. And I still have all of her records that, you know, have her name written on them. It's so cute. Let's see. I like a lot of psychedelic, too, from back then. And I think I always will, probably. So, The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Deep Purple, before they went rock and roll with, you know, Smoke on the Water. I like their earlier stuff that is psychedelic. Of course, the solo Beatles work is always great. But as for American stuff, oh, before I move to American stuff, Pink Floyd is a big time favorite. Okay, American music. I like, let's see, Rita Coolidge, the Carpenters, who else? Well, Chicago's American, so that counts. I just like a lot of things, so it's hard to organize it all in my head. I'm looking over at some records over there. Oh, Whitney Houston. I remember her debut album when I was a youngster. We listened to that over and over. I still have that very record right now over there. Man. Yeah, I could go on and on about music. Music is great. Question 9. Favorite book? Let's see. Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking over at my books. Oh, The Bell Jar. Sylvia Plath wrote that. It's a novel, but it's basically autobiographical. Of course, I like other classics too, like To Kill a Mockingbird and Grapes of Wrath, East of Eden. But another good nonfiction, other than Girl Interrupted, is Little Girl Blue by Randy Schmidt. It's all about Karen Carpenter and her struggle with anorexia and potentially other conditions that he thinks that she might have had that contributed to her untimely death. And of course I could carry on with other poets because I hold a degree in creative writing in the poetic stream from the University of Victoria, so I could go on and on about that stuff. Question 10. One word to describe yourself. Man. I don't know. Probably like a homebody. because my favorite thing is to not go out. My favorite thing is to stay home with all of my goodies and all of my life. I'm like a snail. I like living inside my house, and because that's where everything is, and I know where everything is, and I can conduct myself the way I wish to conduct myself, and just go about my day. You know, I don't have to go any place to feel good. Let's put it that way. Right. So those are the 10 questions. Boop. But I thought I would share with you just a few projects before I go. Alright? Alright. First of all, from last time, you might remember that I'd finished a Star Wars project. Well, here it is. I ran out of staples. I bought a canvas, a pre-stretched, round canvas, 13 inches round, and I thought that would be fun to put the Death Star on. So that's what I did. I'm going to finish stapling this as soon as I can find some more, and then it'll be hung on the wall, and it'll be done. So that's one. Since I saw you last, I started and finished this. You can see the monitor now. I shouldn't have framed it, but there it is. It's the McGoth. I'm hating it. McDonald's thing that I got from Witchy Stitcher. The other two that I have are kits that I made my own, shall we say. This is that was Victoria knocking something down. Yeah. Anyway, this is my whorehouse. It's a Judith Kirby Queen Anne Victorian house pattern. And it's, of course, done in all the feminine, you know, pinks and a bit of purple, and with the English garden everywhere. And anyway, I thought these houses look like whorehouses. At least where I was living at the time, a lot of these houses were repurposed, unfortunately, and used for illegal purposes, often prostitution. So I thought I would just embroider the word whore up there and do a really cool black worked border around it. So that's what I did. So there's that. And another fun one is my nudes place. This is a kit that I bought from a seller on eBay, the same seller that I got the house from. It's a pre-stamped design on some Ada. So that's why there's the door and this kind of color down here. That was all stamped on. So what I decided is, rather than following the chart and doing the like little quaint, you know, flowers on here, I went for my own take, and I decided to do a study in black work. So first of all, though, I had to do my nudes sign. It's like a riff on a neon sign. I hope you can see. So it's like an arrow that I did with some novelty thread. There's this is light effect thread in a shiny gold here, and The S is done in like a more matte bronzy gold, and I did a few black X's crosses over some of the gold to make it look kind of like the illusion of a faded flickering neon sign bulb, you know what I mean? The rest of the stitching is black work, so I don't know how well the camera will pick a lot of it up because a lot of it does blend. So I looked up a bunch of diaper patterns on YouTube. They're called diaper patterns in black work. I don't know why, but they are. So there's leaves, and the background is filled with this nifty one that I found in a book, and I did a bit of shading, so it's super opaque here, or dense, to make it look darker, and then it gets lighter, 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 until kind of the lightest. And yeah, I did the door knockers with just some chain stitch kind of on top of other stitches that were already there. And yeah, it's all 14 count Aida, so yeah, it was fun to do. Fun, time consuming, but fun. And right now I am working on a yellow submarine, but it's kind of over there, kind of out of the way, so I will show it to you when I finish it, which won't be long from now. It'll be done pretty soon. So anyhow, hope you enjoyed this checking in. Yeah, I'll be back as soon as possible, and I will definitely look forward to your comments. Bye, everyone.